It's Monday night, and you know what that means. Jersey First TV proudly brings to you the latest edition of Real Talk, and certainly I am New Jersey's premier award-winning journalist. The top Latino has voted on for the last 3 consecutive years by the Latino Spirit Online magazine, along with the United States Latino Affairs Initiative, and without a doubt, I'll continue to be the weapon of mass disruption in Garden State media, because my level of honesty, now more than ever, ladies and gentlemen, is truly necessary in this era of journalistic deception. That's right, ladies and gentlemen, it is me, the people's voice and the people's choice, Fernando Uribe. Happy Monday to you all here on this, the 19th of August in 2024. Folks, we are wrapping up the summer. I'll be honest with you, I can't wait for the summer to be over. Again, the NFL is right around the corner. The leaves start changing. Halloween's my favorite holiday. You know, gets a little cooler. Don't have to be sweating out there in the humidity, getting sunburned unnecessarily. Folks, I love the fall season. I know many of you do as well. And folks, again, appreciate for tuning in from wherever and however you may be doing so right now on Facebook Live via StreamYard, and certainly, of course, on the Jersey First YouTube page, along with all of our great social media platforms. Of course, folks, if you haven't done so already, make sure you like us on Facebook, of course. Follow us on Instagram and Twitter. Of course, well, everybody that checks us out on YouTube, make sure you subscribe, like, comment, and share the episodes on your social media platforms, and let everybody know how much you enjoy Real Talk with Fernando Uribe right here on Jersey First TV. And of course, whether you get your podcast on Spotify or SoundCloud, download Jersey First and all of our great content. You can listen to it anywhere at any time, whether you're coming back from Tiki Mondays down in Point Pleasant, maybe you're taking the kids out for school shopping, whether it's the upcoming fall semester or the new academic school year, whether they're entering middle school, high school, or whatever. I'm sure maybe you're shopping for new clothes, new technology. Again, folks, don't forget, make sure you get Apple products, because Apple's the way to go, folks. You know, I say it all the time to my students and to my friends. Again, get those Apple products. It's definitely worth it. And of course, folks, hey, download Jersey First. And of course, whether you're doing that, wherever it is you're going, I'm sure you're on your smartphone, your tablet, maybe you're nearby a PC or a MacBook, whatever it is you're doing, check out Jersey First anywhere at any time. Folks, you definitely want to tune in for final thoughts, because you know what? Believe it or not, this week, it's going to be a very subdued final thoughts. And while there is certainly a plethora of clowns in the establishment media here in New Jersey, and meanwhile, folks, let's be honest. I mean, I'm not a proctologist, but I know how to identify assholes when I see them. So, of course, you know, I could certainly go after the usual ones in New Jersey media, like Matt Freeman, Tom Moran, David Cruz, and the little snide, little backhanded, you know, comments or juvenile behavior. But I won't do that this week, folks, because during final thoughts, I'm going to make it a point, okay? And certainly without a doubt, I'm going to make it a point to pay my respects to the Dean of the New Jersey Press Corps, and who I would call the GOAT of New Jersey journalism, the greatest of all time, folks. That's right, Michael Aaron, who tragically passed last week after what I believe was a long battle with cancer. I'll have a very special tribute to Michael Aaron during final thoughts. You definitely want to tune in for that. Folks, again, if you're tuning in from wherever and however you may be doing so, again, like, comment, and share. Right now, let everyone you know on your newsfeed how much you enjoy Real Talk and certainly all our great content we bring you every single week here on Jersey First TV. Of course, brand new episodes of the Nader Narrative premiere every Thursday. And, of course, brand new episodes of Bridging the Gap every Thursday as well. Again, shout out to my incredible colleagues at Jersey First TV, Elizabeth Nader, along with AJ Malillo and Stephen Rumbolo. Again, this great team. I can't say enough what a privilege it is to be what I continue to call the dream team of Garden State Media. That's right, folks. It's always Jersey First TV. Now, folks, it is election season, but there's always things to talk about, not just about politics, but about community, about quality of life. And, you know, being that yours truly, right, your favorite broadcast journalist, of course, is New Jersey's premier journalist, I'm also an advocate and an activist for important causes, whether it's philanthropy, quality of life, but more importantly, folks, I'm someone who solidly supports law enforcement in New Jersey. 4 summers ago, when we were all watching cities burn to the ground, as I like to sort of say it so eloquently, as we were seeing, cities burned to the ground, we started seeing this defund the police narrative that was prevalent during our political climate. I was not one of those. I solidly stand behind law enforcement, our brave men and women that serve our communities, whether it be at the municipal level, at the state level, state police, county level, whether it's sheriff's officers, park police, whatever you want to call it. Folks, this program, Jersey First TV, also, we solidly support the blue. And I'm proud to do that. Unlike other journalists in New Jersey, well, more propagandists who choose to sort of vilify law enforcement, that's not what happens on this show, and it never will. And speaking of law enforcement, folks, it's my pleasure to bring you here tonight. He is the president of the Muslim American Law Enforcement Association. And again, you can check out their website, which is www.maleanj. Of course, you can write to them, P.O. Box 71 in Spotswood, New Jersey. That's 08884. You can also reach them at 732-210-4337. You can also email them at info@maleanj.org. Make sure you like them on Facebook, of course, and follow them on Instagram and Twitter. Joining me right now live is their president, Kamil Warraich. Joins us live here on. How are you, sir?
I'm doing very well. Thank you. Thank you for the great introduction, Fernando. I appreciate it.
No problem. And folks, again, check out the website there and obviously all the great resources available through the Muslim American Law Enforcement Association. So, Kamil, again, great to see you on here, bro. I know we've talked extensively off the air before the show, so I definitely wanted to be able to get you on here. And just, for our audience at home, certainly everyone's favorite broadcast journalist does his homework when it comes to our guests. And the MALEA aims to provide training, mentorship, and promote diversity in the field of law enforcement as service and education to the Muslim community and, of course, the community at large. One of the MALEA goals is to establish chapters and subchapters for larger agencies within all states throughout the nation. We still encourage out-of-state Muslim law enforcement officers to join MALEA and its supporting members. So a great organization, certainly one that I'm sure has gotten a lot of attention, Kamil, in recent years, and we'll talk a little bit more about that. But what was the genesis or sort of the root causes of creating MALEA?
Sure. So thanks again for having me. And I'll just start with a little bit about myself. I have close to 2 decades in law enforcement, reaching the rank of lieutenant, and I'm the founding president of MALEA. And I'll start by actually giving you the background, what I've come to know of Muslim police officers in New Jersey. I think it's important to give credit where it's due. So in the early 2000s, Muslim police officers from Newark PD, they did start an association. It was basically an LLC, a company. And right before that, they had actually some Newark police officers, and the state fraternal order of police had actually taken a case all the way up to Supreme Court to fight for their First Amendment rights. In this particular case, it was the right to keep a beard as a religious practice. They prevailed. The officers prevailed. FOP prevailed, and this case was, it was monumentous. It set a precedent. It set a precedent not only for Muslim police officers, but also Sikhs and Jews who wanted to wear religious articles while working. So that's kind of like, I think that's the beginning of somewhat of, Muslim police officers organizing. And years later, MALEA came along. MALEA was the first 501c3 approved in this state. And basically, we're a charity organization. It's a private foundation. And at the time, I felt that there was a strong need. There was a big need for an association that represents Muslim police officers. However, we are all inclusive and interfaith. So our members are both Muslims and non-Muslims. So
So
in summer of 2020, post COVID and post George Floyd, we started this association with four goals in mind, and those were charity, outreach, uh, um, policy, police policy that's affecting so many of us, and basically a fraternal organization for Muslim officers to support each other, and for all officers to support each other. To tell you the truth, it's even though we represent, and majority is Muslim police officers, we represent all law enforcement in our association.
Folks, if you just joined us right now, it's 7:11 here on the East Coast. My guest right now live is the president of the Muslim American Law Enforcement Association here in New Jersey, but certainly, obviously, it's a grassroots organization. Their president, Kamil Warraich, joins us here live on Real Talk. Folks, it takes 2 seconds. Like, comment, and share, and let everyone know how much you enjoy Real Talk right here as we are live on Jersey First TV. Kamil, you mentioned, obviously, the grassroots effort of what this organization is. And certainly, as a law enforcement officer. Now, again, my experience working in the criminal justice system some years ago, I worked with corrections and probation and within the Office of the Public Defender. So, I've always been someone that's been fascinated about the criminal justice system, having worked in it for over 10 years and then transitioning into academia and journalism concurrently. I've always been someone that understands the hard work of men and women in uniform, whether it's at the municipal level, whether it's at the county level, right? County sheriffs, park police, even at the state level as well. State troopers, obviously, it's a difficult job. The hours are tough. The training is agonizing. Obviously, I know what, obviously seeing the training firsthand. But, from what, in your capacity as president of this organization, and obviously it's certainly tailored to one specific demographic, what's been the feedback for you when it comes to really other law enforcement agencies that I'm sure you collaborate with? It's not obviously not just, collaborating with fellow Muslim police officers. It's, of course, collaborating with law enforcement officers across every demographic. So what's been the feedback so far, and sort of like the reaction, and quite frankly, I think sort of the embrace by other law enforcement officers?
Well, to begin with, we had a very positive response when we started the organization. Immediately, people joined from different faiths. So it wasn't just Muslim officers joining. People wanted to help. People wanted to assist. People understood that this was a noble cause. People understood that at the end of the day, this is a law enforcement organization. And we do represent everyone, and our interests are, interests and goals are, common among us. So it's always been a very positive feedback, and we certainly have collaborated with, I can't even tell you how many agencies. In the last 4 years, we've had so many different events, charity events, mainly charity events, with different agencies. When Malia does an event, a charity event, we do reach out to all the local agencies. We'll reach out to the local PD. We'll reach out to the prosecutor's office. We'll reach out to, even may invite the AG's office, to the local sheriff's office. It has always been about collaborating, and that's what we've done in our events. And if you even, now in this social media world, it's, you can see, it's easily to see how things are being done. And if you look at our social media, you'll see a collaboration every time there's a big event. One thing I did want to mention that I've neglected to, which is that we started off in New Jersey, and there were officers, Muslim officers, that started joining from other states, as far as California. So we have 3 members that are in California, which eventually, the goal was to go national to begin with, right when we started. So we are a national organization now, having members in multiple states. And the objective is to keep growing and providing that platform for everyone.
I mean, Camille, when I think about law enforcement, I think about sort of its evolution. Obviously, I mean, I've taught courses on law enforcement. I mean, worked in the system myself in different capacities, and certainly as an academic. And I mean, I've always looked at law enforcement as an evolving institution. And one of the things I know we talked about off the air, but I would argue probably the single biggest evolution, or I would say practice, that has changed law enforcement, I would say exponentially, has been the implementation of body cams. We started seeing, obviously, body cams be under scrutiny. And obviously, 4 summers ago, we know what body cams produced, right? We know that it produced footage over the years. Certainly, it continues to be an aid to law enforcement. What was maybe the feedback you were getting from law enforcement officers that you know, not just within MALPA or other law enforcement officers, when it came to body cams? Obviously, in New Jersey, it became law, and we started seeing body cam footage now sort of becoming regular information that people open, right? The Open Public Records Act, that people want to know in municipalities. And we'll get to sort of, on-duty shootings and how, again, media and academia or activism has maybe perverted it to some extent, right? But we'll talk about first about body cams. What's been the feedback that you've seen with your fellow officers, whether it's in New Jersey or out of state, about, quite frankly, how helpful body cams have been?
So I think body cams are an excellent tool, and the problem with law enforcement generally is that we do not like change.
Sure.
And body cams came into effect, I believe, a few years before Malia commenced. So I think most of the members were already used to wearing a body camera by that time. I haven't heard any complaints about it. I mean, look, it serves its purpose because it will clear officers when they're wrongfully being accused of something. And on the other hand, it will hold people responsible when they do something wrong. So that ability where law enforcement was able to cover up whether an honest mistake or an intentional wrongdoing, that is kind of somewhat taken away. But then again, like any policy, you can have the best policies, but the point is, how is it being enforced? Is it being properly enforced? Are people being held accountable? So if you're in a place where there's going to be no accountability, then, cameras or not, there's always ways to go around things. And I've always been a big supporter of transparency. I think that's what we need the most in law enforcement. And many people won't agree with me about this, but I certainly hold that we need more transparency.
Absolutely. Listen, I'm with you. And folks, if you're just joining us right now, it's 7:19 here on the East Coast. If you're just joining us live, my guest right now is the president of the Muslim American Law Enforcement Association here in New Jersey, Kamil Warraich. Kamil, have I been pronouncing the name correctly? My apologies, sir.
Kamil Warraich. No, it's fine.
Okay, cool. All right, you got on the first try. All right, Dr. Uribe-'s on his game today. All right, I'm liking it. Okay, folks, again, like, comment, and share. It takes 2 seconds to show your support for Real Talk and Jersey First TV. Kamil, again, sort of sticking with the body cam dynamic. Obviously, it has, to your point, you said it beautifully. It's changed the dynamics, obviously, of the way that officers go about their business. Certainly, transparency is always a good thing. And listen, not to get overly political because the show is political, but in a time when we want transparency from government and our institutions, right? It seems that law enforcement has been sort of way ahead of other government institutions when it comes to transparency, but it seems like that still isn't enough, right? And again, I don't want to get overly political here. That's not the point of the program, but it seems like one side of the aisle still isn't satisfied, whether it's academia, whether it's activists, whether it's the establishment media. It just seems like, hey, whenever we can take a shot at law enforcement, at hardworking men and women within our communities, okay? And again, it's a PG program. I want to try to keep it PG, but folks, not every officer has the luxury of working in Paramus or Alpine, New Jersey. Okay, there are many of our men and women in uniform. go into some really bad areas in New Jersey. New Brunswick, Trenton, Patterson, Jersey City, Elizabeth, I might have said already, Camden. I mean, I don't have enough fingers and toes. Okay, it's a tough job. And the last thing we need to do is sort of make it more difficult for our men and women in uniform in blue to be vilified, ostracized, and quite frankly, I think almost ridiculed, which I think has been unfair, Kamil. And I really want to get your thoughts on, despite these advances, whether in transparency or anything else, it seems like law enforcement still cannot get that W when it comes to these institutions that are just hungry to always vilify it.
Sure. No, I understand it. I mean, that's where we are. That's where law enforcement is. And you're absolutely right. I agree with you that no matter what you do, certain individuals and certain organizations will always find something wrong with the cops or what they did. And that is a political issue. And that's, I don't have the answer for that because those folks are going to stick to their agenda regardless. But there's cops that are doing heroic stuff every single day, putting their lives on line. And I don't think people can genuinely contest that because most of us are willing to make a sacrifice to save someone else. Like that's one of the reasons why most people, I would say, got on the job. We have that where we will risk our safety to make you safe or get you out of danger. So and there's a ton of examples every day. So like I said, I mean, if some folks are not gonna recognize the sacrifices of law enforcement and just want to find what they believe to be is wrong with the profession, then that's just what they're gonna do. Having said that, there are a ton of things that can be done better in this profession. And we do have cultural issues, and we do have some things that we can do better to serve the people, to do our jobs. So it goes both ways. It's not just one way. It's not that simple. We need to improve on things, and the public needs to support us where we're right and hold us accountable where we're not.
Kamil, I really want to ask you, so again, I don't want to get political, even though the show is in nature, but I really want to get your thoughts on this because, and folks, again, if you're just joining us right now, it's 7:24 on the East Coast. This is perhaps going to be the best content of responsible journalism you're going to see on your newsfeed tonight, folks. And again, I'm going to be a little bit of a smart ass here. Obviously, we all know that tonight is the start of the DNC, folks. For everybody at home, this by far will be the most informative piece of journalism you'll watch tonight, folks, and probably this week, since the DNC has offended on Chicago. Kamil, it's interesting. You're seeing some optics and quite frankly, in Chicago right now, you're seeing a party that was all about defunding the police, now desperate to have police barricading themselves between them and protesters. As a member of the law enforcement community, again, it depends on your algorithm. You might see different things than I do. Who knows? But I know what I'm seeing on my algorithm about people on the street, men on the street, video footage, live correspondence. We're seeing police officers in Chicago taking an enormous amount of verbal, hopefully not physical abuse because that's a felony, but taking a lot of verbal abuse by specific protesters that obviously are of a specific ideology, that are very angry at the current administration in Washington about what's going on halfway around the world in areas like Gaza. And we're seeing law enforcement officers, again, being vilified, being, quite frankly, made to look like villains. And I think it's disgusting, and I think it's reprehensible. I'm someone that has been calling out blatant anti-Semitism in our media here in New Jersey. I'm the only journalist standing up really against anti-Semitism. When you're seeing this dynamic play out in Chicago this week, already last night, never mind tonight, what are your thoughts as a Muslim American, but also as a law enforcement officer? Is there a conflict, or have you been able to sort of separate the two entities from who you are saying.
So please forgive me. I'm not familiar with what took place this weekend in Chicago, so I can't really speak to it. But I'll give you my general point of view on this. That
Sure.
Folks have a right to have an opinion, and sometimes they're right and we're wrong. I'll be the first to admit that. As police officers, we are wrong at times. But again, police officers have a job to do to maintain peace. And that's our first priority, and that's what we're going to do. The politics side of it, people are right sometimes, and they have a right to protest and whatever that might be. That's their First Amendment. I support it. But I know where I stand and this is kind of the theme of Malia, when it comes to picking between, church and state. We go by what the law is, what our job requires us to do. And being a Muslim police officer, I don't think that there's any contradictions between the two. So we don't, as police officers, we don't want anti-Semitism. We don't want Islamophobia. We don't want bigotry. We don't want, bias, and all things of all of those negative nature.
Kamil, having said that, and again, just to bring up to speed again, as you mentioned, maybe you're not up to speed about what's going on. Obviously, this week, starting today, the DNC starting their convention and nominating Vice President Harris to be the Democrat Party's nominee for president. And already last night, we started seeing massive protesters ascending on Chicago. Those that are advocating, let's say, for a free Palestine, protesters, whether it be academics, journalists, whoever. The content's there, and unfortunately, it started getting ugly yesterday. There's plenty of content out there and footage today of police officers being sort of verbally harassed because they're, again, again, not getting really political, but interesting. A party that doesn't like walls has pretty much put up a wall to protect themselves.
Yeah, I'd rather not comment on politics. That's
Sure.
not my forte. I've never been interested in it in that way.
Sure.
I'm a law enforcement officer, so I don't, I treat everybody the same.
Fair enough. Okay.
For whatever background you come from, I'm here to speak about Muslim American Law Enforcement Association, and I'd rather just stick to that and whatever questions you may have, or if not, that's fine too.
No, sure, absolutely. Again, I'm just sort of bringing up to speed about sort of the optics that are out there. Having said that, when we think about law enforcement associations, I know it is a non-political, non-partisan organization.
Right. It's a charity, so we're not even supposed to be.
Sure. When you see law enforcement organizations around the country getting involved in politics, in case in point in New York, we're seeing, the Suffolk County FOP or the Suffolk County law enforcement, endorsing a presidential candidate. For you as a president of this organization here in New Jersey, again, I'm really curious to sort of pick your brain on this. Is this something that associations like yours should be doing? I know you're not doing it, but should law enforcement organizations overall be doing this during a political season, endorsing candidates?
In my opinion, I don't think so. I don't think we should be supporting political candidates.
Okay.
Because we're here to serve everybody. So, and I think that because, look, the fact is half of the country is, on one side and the other half on the other. So I don't think that we have a place in politics. Having said that, we understand that we need to work with different politicians in terms of legislation that affect us, that affects police officers, that affects the public, better legislation, and all of that comes with, relationships, and that's just the, fact of life. However, openly endorsing a political candidate, I don't think we should do that, but, it's being done, and I understand other people may have a different opinion about it. I remember writing an op-ed a couple of years ago about this particular topic, why law enforcement shouldn't be openly picking sides. I mean, look, everyone has a right to vote as a citizen, and you vote for the person that you deem, qualified. and good for the country. There's nothing wrong with that, but I don't think that you should openly support someone in that manner or openly oppose someone in that manner, because a lot of folks are very passionate about it, and it just doesn't make sense to me. But that's just my opinion.
No, listen, you're not wrong, man. I mean, I know plenty of law enforcement officials that feel the same way you do. Again, a lot of these organizations are indeed nonpartisan, right? They're nonprofit, they're nonpartisan, right? And when we start seeing organizations of any kind, again, listen, it could be the Muslim American Law Enforcement Association, it could be the New Jersey Society of Professional Journalists, right? I mean, it could be any nonprofit or supposedly nonpartisan organization that we ultimately don't want them involved in politics. Right. Again, it could alienate basically, right, half the membership, regardless of what you do. And that's probably not the best scenario that you want for an organization as you're trying to grow it. Again, collect membership dues, host events, right, do grassroots type of organizing. So again, listen, I agree with you, man. I think when it comes to this level, it's important to sort of remain nonpartisan and neutral. It can be hard though, right? I mean, we're living in pretty tribal political times, man.
Oh, I couldn't agree with you more. Absolutely. And it's frightening. But that's the reality of it. But I think that we should remain neutral or maintain the appearance of being neutral.
It's certainly, no, absolutely. You're right. Folks, it's 7:31 here on the East Coast. You're joining us live. Like, comment, and share. So everyone, if you know how much you enjoy Real Talk, tonight with my guest live, joining me is the distinguished president of the Muslim American Law Enforcement Association here in New Jersey, Kamil Warraich, joining us live. And folks, by the way, you definitely want to stick around for final thoughts. A very special tribute to the late, great Michael Aaron, the Dean of Journalism and arguably the GOAT of New Jersey journalism. More on that during final thoughts. You definitely want to stick around for that as well. Kamil, let me ask you this. I'm someone, again, it's not really a political answer, a question per se, but, you know, as someone in New Jersey who monitors trends, I look at an attorney general in this state that is not very friendly to those of us that are responsible gun owners. We've seen what the Supreme Court has ruled when it comes to the Second Amendment. We saw the case out of New York. It came to close carry and even open carry to some extent. We know that the emperor, Phil Murphy, the governor, and Matt Placken, the attorney general, have not been very warm to responsible gun owners and those that are looking to practice the Second Amendment responsibly. You, as a law enforcement official, any data you can share with us, or that maybe you has come across your desk? Because I know, you know, applying for a firearm in New Jersey is a lengthy process, and it should be. You know, not just anyone should be able to get that. You should pass a background check, go through all the references, all the fingerprinting, everything that needs to be done. I'm all for. However, it seems like this attorney general and this governor in New Jersey, unlike other states, right? They're as red as my jacket, don't seem to give responsible gun owners the grief that this attorney general gives New Jersey residents. In your capacity as the president of this law enforcement organization, what are you hearing from officers, their families, and in general, New Jerseyans that want to protect themselves?
So, for the record, I have to state, I was not aware that you were this political. Maybe I should have done a better homework, but I have no problem with that question.
Sure.
Malia has worked with the Attorney General's office on projects.
Okay.
And we've also criticized the Attorney General's office. We've done both. And that's very important to us. You want to be able to maintain a level of autonomy where you can speak up where you believe someone is doing wrong. So I'm not going to, I don't have a comment for these particular issues that you mentioned, but it's no secret that the Attorney General's office is the most politically influenced office. You're right. It's the governor places the Attorney General there, and that's the administration. So, you know, when you have someone Democrat, it's pushing Democrat issues. When you have somebody Republican, things go a little more Republican way. So that's whoever's in the office is going to do what they're, you know, particularly the person that put them in there. That's the allegiance. So,
Fair enough. And folks, keep the comments coming. Obviously, whether it's you love the show or you're just being a hater, you're still watching. So I appreciate that, and I appreciate the traffic and views you keep giving me. So, folks, again, if you just joined us right now, it's 7:38 here on the East Coast. My guest right now is the distinguished president of the Muslim American Law Enforcement Association, Kamil Warraich. You're going to hear on Real Talk via Jersey First TV. Kamil, we've talked about, again, sort of advancements in transparency. We talked about body cams. I know that training continues to sort of be a big topic of conversation, right? Not just in New Jersey, but nationally. I know, for example, here in New Jersey, we've seen some stories in recent months, if not years, about the use of force by police officers in certain situations, let's say against individuals. Listen, nearby Jersey City by me, there was an incident that was certainly, the body cam footage was produced via Oprah, various news outlets reporting on it, an individual experiencing some sort of mental health difficulty. We've seen how oftentimes these incidents get magnified. What are your thoughts, again, as the president of a law enforcement association? I know that the training is extensive, whether you're going to Seagirt or other academies. We're talking about like 4, if not at times 5 months of training, right? Not just in firearms, but in tactics. What would you like to see being added to the training that's already ongoing at our police academies?
so let me just comment on you. You mentioned that these incidents involving EDPs, emotionally disturbed people, get magnified. They get magnified because sometimes we don't practice, we don't engage in best practice.
Okay.
We could have done something differently, but we didn't. So that brings attention to it. So any training in that is always good. One of the most common issues I see with training is that sometimes even the trainers within an agency will come in and say, "Oh, look, you just have to get through this. We have to do this," and that kind of diminishes the importance of that training. You're if I was given the same training, I would say, "Listen, your job depends on this, so make sure you pay attention to this." But training is always good. It's you have to show people, different perspectives, where other folks may be coming from, the public that you're dealing with, how they may be perceiving you. So 5 months of training in a police academy is nothing. You're like a baby. You really don't know much. You're looking for guidance, not even from your supervisors. You're looking for guidance from senior officers. And I've seen officers new on the job and have solid judgment and make good decisions. And I've seen people with a whole lot of time on and still make mistakes. And that's how they've always done the job. And they think that is the right way to do it. So, it's training is very important, but mentoring and supervision is even more important, because you got to stop them in real time and take action, or address it in the field.
Kamil, let me ask you this, because I've talked to a lot of law enforcement officers in recent months. Shout out to my jiu-jitsu studio, 48th Street Jiu-Jitsu in Union City, a great local business. Great instructor, Ray Rodriguez there will work with you folks at home. Obviously, very affordable training sessions, one-on-one individual sessions. I've benefited greatly from it. But I've also seen, Kamil, police officers that I've talked to that go to 48th Street Jiu-Jitsu and other jiu-jitsu studios throughout New Jersey. And they've seen firsthand sort of the benefits of de-escalation tactics that, for example, disciplines like jiu-jitsu teach officers. Is that something maybe you'd like to see incorporated more into training at academies, or what else would you like to see?
Absolutely. I think it should be an ongoing training, just like and I would even say we don't practice with firearms enough either. If you're doing only the mandatory training, but or qualification, but that is the most important thing in de-escalating as well. You know, officers that are confident in their physical abilities are less likely to use a gun or something else, another tool on their belt. You know, uh, when they talk, they're confident, and when they put their hands on you for good reason, they're confident and they're able to control the person because they kind of know what they're doing, even if the person subduing is a bigger person or you know stronger. They're able to effectively arrest the person without incident. It's when officers that don't have that type of experience, then things go south. So, and then think about this, right? It's common sense. If you're not training me in it, how to subdue somebody and put them in cuffs, then I'm just gonna go back to whatever it is that I know about using force or fighting or whatever that may be. So if you're not giving me the skills that I need, then I'm going to use whatever it is that I know. And sometimes people don't know anything. You know, there's officers that haven't engaged in any type of physical or hand-to-hand situation. So they are more likely to go to a weapon and use it. And that creates a big problem sometimes, speaking of the magnified attention.
I mean, again, one of the things that bothers me, again, I'm someone who's been a staunch supporter of law enforcement for as long as I can remember, Kamil. When I see these incidents being sort of magnified on local news sites, whether here in Hudson County, I'm not sure where you live, but here in Hudson County, we have some great news sites such as Hudson County View. You know, obviously, editor John Highness there, great reporting he does constantly. The Jersey City Times with Aaron Morrill. I mean, they talk about these incidents that have happened, right? Obviously, the most recent one was I think maybe mid last year, if I'm not mistaken. Obviously, that got magnified. We've been seeing other incidents as well. It sort of brings up, and again, I've been looking at literature where those that are always quick to jump on law enforcement, to vilify law enforcement. It always seems like their bread and butter is to go back to, hey, we need to do away with qualified immunity. And it seems like this is a subject that I don't think is helpful, Kamil, at all. I think it puts a lot of unnecessary strain on our officers. I think it puts a lot of unnecessary strain on our institutions. When you hear that rhetoric out there, because I'm sure you do, right? I mean, you read social media. I'm sure that, you either get correspondence emailed or mailed to, the MALEA's inbox or mailbox. When you hear this sort of rhetoric, what comes to mind and what's the best rebuttal against them?
So I personally don't think that qualified immunity is an issue. Uh, you know, uh, we as police officers have qualified immunity. That means as long as we, do what we're trained to do, we're okay, even if things go wrong, or we have some type of protection because it was in the line of work. Um, you know, there's government employees that have absolute immunity. I mean, even when they're proven, it's obvious that they're wrong, such as prosecutors and even judges, right? They have absolute immunity. So, can you imagine the abuse of power in those situations? But I think, again, it comes back to accountability, right? Whether you have qualified immunity or not, if you're being held accountable to what you did, I think that the public would be less likely to be up in arms about it. I think it's when they see people that have done wrong and gotten away with it, that's when they're up in arms, and I think they have a right to, because it's clearly not how it's meant to be. So if you're holding police officers accountable accordingly, I think even if someone makes the argument of taking the qualified immunity away, uh, we're good because we understand that that's necessary for police officers to do their job.
Camille, when we think about law enforcement today, and we think about, again, advancements that, without question, will be necessary. One of the other advances I think we're seeing, quite frankly, in New Jersey, I can't speak for the rest of the country, but I've looked at data here a little bit, and I've been looking at recruitment, and we are seeing, quite frankly, probably the best period of diversity in New Jersey law enforcement history ever. Right, we're seeing men and women, certainly women commensurate with when it comes to recruiting. We are seeing almost every demographic being represented, not just at the local level, but again, county level and state level. What more is there to do when it comes to, and again, I don't like to get into DEI stuff and conversations about that, but when it comes to recruiting, right, we need qualified people, right? We certainly would like to see more educated people, certainly people with not just undergraduate degrees, but in some instances, graduate degrees going into these positions. I know that, for example, again, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but at the state police level, I think that is there some sort of graduate degree that's at the minimum required, or is it still a bachelor's degree?
I believe it's a bachelor's.
Okay. So even when it comes to the state police, and certainly, obviously if you have higher degrees, certainly that'll help with advancement and increments and salary, so on and so forth. But at the county and municipal level, what are you seeing about recruitment when it comes to men and women right out of college, right, with undergraduate degrees, maybe going for a graduate degree? Are you seeing sort of like commensurate statistics that'll tell you that, hey, we're getting these new hires right out of college, or are we seeing, people maybe working at the sheriff's department to start off with, and then sort of transitioning to municipal positions?
Well, I mean, you see it both. You see some folks, they're fortunate enough to get hired right out of college, and some folks have to, go by some stepping stones to get to where they need to be. But you do see both. I don't know that to be true, and maybe it is. I don't have the stats that you're looking at, but I think that we can. That's another area that we could do a lot better job in when it comes to diversifying our agencies. Look, if someone is a person that just doesn't believe in diversity or equity or even inclusion, they'll never agree with this stuff, and that's also a political point of view, and that's okay. If that's your point of view, that's your point of view. Um, we'll agree to disagree. But there's agency. I mean, obviously, some agencies are better at recruiting and than others. Um, but I can't say that I've seen a huge improvement in agencies. I mean, one of the legislations that we actually opposed was this legislation where agencies are able to, and this doesn't even apply to the the chiefs test agencies. This is civil service, where agencies are able to bypass civil service exam and kind of hire whoever they wanted to. And then eventually, I guess you have to take the exam and then you become a permanent employee. In the meantime, you're in a provisional position. It was meant to assist in diversifying agencies. The goal always has been that it should mirror your jurisdiction, or as close as you can get to it. And I think that legislation actually exacerbated the issue, and it became worse. Um, we've also looked at. I mean, we do stuff with. We're partners with New Jersey Civil Service Commission. We look at some of their stuff, we make suggestions in our role as Malia, as Noble, which is the National Organization of Black Law Enforcement Executives, member of HALIA, which is Hispanic American Law Enforcement Association. So we do gauge them and make suggestions, and have this back and forth with them. But I like to share this stat, which I believe close to 10,000 people took the tests, the civil service test, in 2022. And out of those 10,000, only 300 plus were actually hired. Now that's a big list, the biggest in the state, I think, anywhere out of any agency. State police or corrections. Corrections is also civil service. But my point is that you have a list of people that passed the entry level exam. And what we've been trying to push for is the civil service to be able to share that list with all law enforcement agencies in the state, whether it's a chief's town or a civil service or what have you. So folks that say, oh, well, it's just bad right now and we can't find any applicants, I find that to be disingenuous because we know plenty of people that are looking for this job. We know, how do we know? We also know this because if 10,000 people took the test for civil service, people are looking for this job. It may not have been as much as it used to be, but nonetheless, there's people, they're qualified people because they've passed at least the entry level, and they're good to go along, further in the process. And so I don't see that it's gotten, this, as you stated, that it's just the best it has been in the state. I think that's something we can improve on. We worked on legislation, 3 pieces of legislation back in 2019 and 2020, which were passed by Governor Murphy. And those pieces of legislation dealt with basically, and there's been a mentoring program created by Civil Service Commission. Out of that legislation, there has been a program that offers either discounted or free prep courses to take the initial test to become a law enforcement officer in New Jersey. There was also this kind of accountability factor putting into the backgrounds, which was that they would have to produce the background data from all applicants, which is the people that get hired and the people that don't get hired. And versus previously, all they had to do was give the data of the people that did get hired. So you wouldn't really know, civil service wouldn't know why somebody was disqualified. Forgive me, it's the other way around. They would give the data regarding people that didn't get hired and not the people that did get hired. So let's just say that, I have 5 tickets and speeding tickets in the past 5 years, and you have 2, and they disqualify you for having those 2 in the 5 years, and then I get hired with 5. So there was this disparity depending on, who you are, if you're connected with the department and all of that. So we try to tackle that, but again, the problem becomes who's enforcing these laws. There's a lack of accountability, there's a lack of transparency. You can come up with the greatest laws, and we always do. New Jersey lawyers are great at writing laws and policy. It just doesn't always translate into, actual being enforced the way it's meant to be.
Kamil, let me ask you this about enforcing law. Sort of an issue. I think I really want to get your thoughts on this. Where, nearby in Jersey City, Mayor Stephen Fulop, also a gubernatorial candidate for the Democrat Party coming up next year. I know that City of Jersey City has been very punitive on officers in the past. And obviously, we've seen the evolution, right, when it comes to marijuana legalization in New Jersey, right, at the passing of a referendum. We're seeing not just medical dispensaries that have surfaced in recent years, but obviously recreational ones. Mayor Stephen Fulop in Jersey City, for example, and I'm not sure about other mayors, but I know that he's been in the news, and maybe you've seen it as well, where he's been very punitive on his officers who have smoked marijuana recreationally, let's say in their off time, right, when they're off duty. It seems like Mayor Fulop and I guess the hierarchy in the Jersey City Police Department have really gone after these officers. I think there's been some litigation. I think they were able to get rehired. Oh, I'm sorry, not rehired. I think they were able to continue their employment. I think at some point maybe their employment was suspended or put on freeze. Maybe they were behind desk duty. Whatever the protocol was, the bottom line is that, there was this optic out there that, for example, the Jersey City PD was being very punitive on their officers for those that chose to smoke marijuana off duty. There's always been debate, though, Kamil, about, one thing is when you're off duty, you have a drink or two, you're relaxing, how long alcohol stays in your system as opposed to cannabis, et cetera, et cetera. that's a whole debate for another program.
Correct.
When you've heard of these news headlines, what has come to mind for you again as the president of a law enforcement association? Maybe you've collaborated and talked to other associations. What's been your thought process when you've seen these headlines?
So I'm somewhat familiar with the case that you're talking about. In fact, I happen to kind of know one of the officers that's in this, going through this very problem. Again, it's a personal preference. I really, and it's their. The fact is that it's their internal politics. So I don't know what Mayor Phillip is being driven by. Maybe he has some genuine concerns, and maybe he doesn't. Maybe it's punitive or him being vindictive. That's someone that maybe Jersey City, from Jersey City, can answer that better. One of their union guys, or maybe that officer themselves that know all the facts of the case. We do have most of our membership, I would say, if one agency that comes from is probably Jersey City PD. We have a lot of members there. And even my vice president, Sergeant Omar Ali, is from Jersey City and works narcotics there. We, in fact, having an event there with the West District this Sunday, a book bag giveaway event.
Okay.
I don't, it's someone from Jersey City that would know a little more about it. Look, it's a personal preference thing. If someone chooses to smoke and it's legal and they're allowed to do so, then that's their decision. That's where I stand with it.
Have you, for the most part, when you've talked to other officers that say who are familiar with the case, and again, you just mentioned you are somewhat familiar with it as well, could this be maybe a growing trend where other departments could choose to be punitive against their officers as well? Because, maybe they see the trend, and even though obviously going through civil service and the Department of Personnel in Trenton, and obviously they've sided with the officers, do you fear perhaps that this could be a growing trend with other municipalities that maybe want to make an example of other officers?
I don't, because I haven't seen it anywhere else. Jersey City is really an anomaly. That's the only case I know of that is still. And you're right. The civil service agreed with the officer. I think the AG's office supported that officer as well, or those officers that were in that predicament. But Jersey City decided to do, go to the contrary. So we'll see how that works out eventually. But I have not seen any agencies coming after their officers just to kind of, hem them up, so to speak. No, I haven't seen them.
No, okay, fair enough. Kamil, before we let you go, obviously, it's actually 8:00 exactly right here on the East Coast. If you're just tuning in live, we appreciate that. Obviously, the best journalism you'll see tonight, folks, unlike whatever else is on TV this evening. You can never go wrong with Real Talk right here with Jersey First TV. My guest joining me live is the distinguished president of the Muslim American Law Enforcement Association, Kamil Warraich, joining us here on Real Talk. Kamil, I've always given advice to former students of mine when it comes to, hey, what profession should I pursue? You've worked in criminal justice. These are the professions you've always spoken highly of. What is the best piece of advice you would want to give anyone watching right now that's in their early to mid-20s, maybe late 20s, that's maybe looking for a new career or finishing undergrad or grad school and are looking for a job in law enforcement, especially as a police officer? What's the best, not single piece of advice, but what would you want to share with them tonight that gets them maybe a leg up and is best prepared to pursue this as a career?
I would say, and I say this to everybody, that this is probably the best job. And clearly I'm biased about this, my opinion, but I love this job. It's a great job, and I think it's worth pursuing wholeheartedly. And that does not mean that we don't come with our own set of problems and professional problems, professional and culture problems in policing. However, it's most certainly worth the pursuit. And I think that what I see most effective is that if you have and again, it comes back to economics a little bit. If you have the ability to put yourself through a police academy via an alternate route, you'll be, you're more likely to get picked up, because now an agency can take you and put you right to the street, put you to work, instead of sending you to a police academy where you're going to spend 4 or 5 months, and the agency's not even sure if you're going to pass. So there's a risk involved there as well, besides spending the money on you. When someone comes to an agency that is already PTC certified, it's, you can put them right to the street. You can give them the field training and have them working immediately. So that makes you, more desirable in by employers. But again, whatever it is that you need to do to make yourself more marketable, it's worth the pursuit, and just, continue. It's not easy to get.
No, it certainly is not.
The truth of
No,
the job.
it certainly is not. No, folks, it's 8:02 here on the East Coast. We just joined us live. My guest tonight, it's been a great conversation. Folks, the traffic has been great. Looking at Facebook, Twitter right now, 362 views. It's actually and counting. Great traffic, folks. As we know, every single week, 10,000 views, all organic, and counting every single week. Again, due to all of you at home that tune in every single week. And of course, to share the replay. So I appreciate all of you, my loyal viewing audience here on Real Talk. Kamil, you've been a great resource tonight. I've enjoyed this conversation, really sort of examining law enforcement today, what needs to improve, what's really working right now. You've been a wealth of information. And once again, folks, make sure you check out maleanj.org. That is the Muslim American Law Enforcement Association right here in New Jersey. Again, folks, important contact information. Make sure you like them on Facebook, of course, and follow them on Instagram and Twitter. You can write to them at their P.O. Box, which is P.O. Box 71 in Spotswood, New Jersey. That's 08884. You can also reach them via 732-210-4337, or shoot them an email at their inbox, info@maleanj.org. A wonderful organization here in New Jersey, led by their president, my guest tonight, Kamil Warraich. Kamil, thank you so much for being on the program. I think it's been a great conversation. It's been productive. I look forward to having you back on as we continue to see these trends in law enforcement, for better, for worse. We're going to keep talking about them. Again, you always have an ally on this program of law enforcement. Again, I understand the difficult job that men and women in blue have to endure every single day, and even some of the worst neighborhoods and some of the best neighborhoods. And whether or not there's advocates talking about, hey, we need to get social workers out there, the police officers, more training. To your point about firearm training, de-escalation tactics, whatever the case may be, it's great to hear organizations like yours really just being out in the forefront and raising awareness. Really just, I think, as not necessarily an activist organization, but an organization that really believes in advocacy. I couldn't be prouder to talk to you tonight. So I'm really, really thankful for your time and grateful for the opportunity to speak with you about these issues that I'm sure we'll continue to talk about in the future. I'll give you the last word here tonight on Real Talk.
Listen, I sincerely appreciate the opportunity. I appreciate you. I appreciate the chance to speak and share my thoughts, and I concur. I think we should do it again. So, whenever you would like me to come back and discuss law enforcement, I'm here. But again, thank you to your viewers, and hope to talk to you soon.
Kamil, real quick, I just saw in my notes, any events coming up when it comes to MALEA in New Jersey? Events coming up, any mixers, any professional organizational events, any board meetings? What can you share with us real quick here on the show?
Well, we do have an event this Sunday, the 25th. Again, it's a book bag giveaway in Jersey City at the West District, where we will be giving 500 book bags containing school supplies. This is an annual event. We've been doing it since since we initiated the organization. So this is, I believe, our 4th year there, and it's a great event. And listen, if you're in the area, please feel free to stop by and hang out with us. It's from noon to 2, so 2 hours, first come, first serve, and it's always a huge line. And you'll see at the end of the day, putting that smile on those kids' faces and being able to help their parents that are in need, that can actually use that, school supplies. It's the greatest joy. So if you're in Jersey City, close to West District, please come by. It's August 25th from noon to 2 p.m.
Folks, again, for more information, go to www.maleanj.org. The Muslim American Law Enforcement Association and their president, Kamil Warraich, our guest tonight. Kamil, God bless you, bro. Stay safe out there.
Thank you.
We appreciate you being a fan of the show, and we'll talk to you again soon on Real Talk via Jersey First TV.
Be well. Take care.
Take care.
Bye.
Folks, great stuff here tonight on Real Talk a little after 8 o'clock here. Folks, great traffic, Facebook and Twitter. Maybe some views, obviously, on YouTube. It's always, hit or miss sometimes. But great traffic on Twitter and Facebook. Of course, if you just joined us live, like, comment, and share. And, folks, are you really surprised? The traffic on this show continues to be very solid. Unlike some of these propagandists in New Jersey establishment media, that's not the case here, folks, on Real Talk with Fernando Uribe via Jersey First TV. Again, special thank you to Kamil Warraich, the distinguished president of the Muslim American Law Enforcement Association. Great things that they're doing, and certainly raising advocacy and awareness for Muslim police officers, men and women in blue, and certainly law enforcement officers overall in the great state of New Jersey. Folks, I can't say enough how productive these conversations are when it comes to discussing quality of life and law enforcement. Folks, it's not just always about politics, really, at the local, state, or even national level. It's about issues that matter to everyday New Jerseyans. And let's be honest, in a time when quality of life are declining in our big cities, we're actually starting to see it maybe in parts of New Jersey as well. It's not the case when you have great organizations like the Muslim American Law Enforcement Association doing their part along with other law enforcement associations throughout the state of New Jersey, really doing their best to help make residents feel safe each and every day. So special thank you to him. And of course, MALEA for their contributions tonight here on Real Talk. Folks, you don't want to go anywhere because it's time for final thoughts. And folks, let me just take a moment here because this is probably going to be the most subdued final thoughts that you will ever see on this program. I tend to sort of go after journalists who I think are doing a disservice to us every single day. But the guy I'm going to talk about tonight never did us a disservice in his long and illustrious career. Last week, we were saddened to hear of the passing of the late, great Michael Aaron. Michael got his start really working for Rolling Stone and going into news media over the years. I had the privilege of meeting Michael Aaron back in 2018 when he invited me to Reporters Roundtable, a show that airs weekly. At the time was New Jersey Network, New Jersey News, and now it's transitioned into NJ Spotlight News. And for those of you that obviously know, I've been at this journalism gig for a while now. Again, shout out to Hudson County TV, who gave me my first break in journalism. Again, special thank you to Julio Reynoso and great people that I worked with in the early years of Hudson County TV. Obviously, fellow journalist and member of the Pinnacle and Rutgers alum, John Hines, who now is a distinguished editor of the Hudson County View. But obviously, other great journalists at that time, Michelle Latour and others who I had the privilege of working with. And subsequently, as I would transition away from Hudson County TV, I started doing podcasting right in the spring of 2017 with Talk on the Hudson via Blog Talk Radio. And of course, I transitioned into hosting Politically Direct with Insider NJ. Yes, folks, believe it or not, there was a time where I actually was on good terms with the company known as Insider NJ, being led by the Graham family. And certainly, I had the privilege of interviewing Michael on multiple occasions on Politically Direct on that podcast. But when I got the email and call to join him along with a panel of other journalists at the Gateway Center in downtown Newark, folks, I got to tell you, I was humbled. I'm not the most humble person around, but I was deeply humbled. And I got to tell you, I was a fan. I've been following Michael Aaron's work for many, many years. And I got to tell you, folks, sometimes, whether it's we meet our heroes in pro wrestling, like I did over the weekend, meeting the immoral Hulk Hogan, whether it's meeting baseball players, NFL players, NBA athletes, NHL, whoever, celebrities of any kind, right? Football players as well. We always hear, ever since we're kids, be careful about meeting your heroes. It may not go well. Well, that was not the case with Michael Aaron, folks. I had the privilege of meeting Michael again in 2018. And folks, you cannot find a nicer, more humble, and really funny guy. And that's who Michael Aaron was. Now, I was in the green room, having some coffee. I was called into makeup. And sure enough, as I was in the makeup room, getting touched up, obviously, as everyone else was in the green room, Michael was nice enough to come into the makeup room. Saw me, shook his hand, said, "Hey, kid, how are you? Michael Aaron." And I'm like, "Oh, Mr. Aaron, I know who you are. It's a privilege to be here." And he goes, "Fernando, I got to tell you," and I remember this vividly, like yesterday. He's like, "Fernando, I've been catching your stuff on Insider. Man, you do a great podcast. I've enjoyed the time that I've been on there with you. Bro, you have a great future." And it was funny, a guy in his early 40s, calling me kid, I just thought was kind of funny. Michael was just so gracious and warm. He was like, "Hey, kid, keep at it. You're really good at what you do." And I didn't know how to take that because it's one of those mark out moments. You meet your hero and he's paying you the compliment. And I just marked out so much. It was amazing. I was able to keep my composure. And I remember, at that moment, I wanted to text everybody, like my parents, my family, friends. Oh my God, Michael Aaron came into the green room and paid me this compliment. And that's who Michael Aaron was. He was gracious and he was warm and he was so hospitable and amicable to everyone he ran into. Just look at me and saying, "Hey, kid, keep at it. You know what? Keep at it every day. Work every day. Don't call out sick. Put in the hours. Put in the work. Put in the grind. You got something. I see it. Otherwise, I wouldn't invite you here." And I got to tell you, folks, when you hear that from someone like Michael Aaron, it humbles you. It makes you want to work even harder to get better at your craft. And I'll be the first one to tell you, I still haven't gotten this down. I'm still learning. I'm still hungry. I still want to get better at what I do in journalism. And yes, it's great to look at all these awards and accomplishments. That's great, folks. But I can always hold dear those words from Michael Aaron. Tell me, "Hey, I like what you're doing, kid. Keep working. Keep hustling. Keep grinding. Don't take a day off. And if you keep at it, it's going to amount to something big. Trust me. You put in the work, and good things will happen." And when Michael said that to me, it just gave me a moment like, holy cow. He took the time to speak with me. Okay. And that's when I, at that moment, was like, okay, damn, I'm hopefully moving up in this business. Again, starting off, grind, as they say, biting your teeth, rolling up your sleeves, cutting your teeth, as they say, in the business. Again, I'm always grateful to Julio Reynoso with Hudson County TV and the great people I work with for giving me my start, right? As I kept at it, kept doing opinion journalism, kept doing man on the street interviews, started a podcast that won awards, talking to Hudson via Blog Talk Radio, started Politically Direct with Insider NJ. And again, folks, I'm humble enough to at least take the opportunity to say, hey, listen, there was a point in time while being employed at Insider NJ that I enjoyed working there. I'm not going to lie to you. I enjoyed some of the people there, sure. And they gave me a platform to not just reach a local audience, but a statewide audience with Politically Direct, which I would then transition into working with the Hudson Media Group. And again, a special thank you to Pat O'Malia, the executive producer and CEO of the Hudson Media Group, who I love dearly, who I've been privileged to work with for the last 5 years in hosting Talking Politics with the Hudson Media Group. And subsequently, in the summer of 2020, literally, folks, on June the 1st, in the middle of the pandemic, as we're all home, we don't know what's going to happen. We're losing loved ones and neighbors and colleagues and coworkers. I decided to start Real Talk. And since then, the show has been a success. The traffic shows it, the awards show it, the compliments show it. But I wouldn't have continued with that hustle. I wouldn't have continued with that effort, with that discipline, if it wasn't for Michael Aaron. And I'm so grateful to you, Michael. And again, my deepest condolences to your family, to your wife, to your children, to your grandchildren, who I'm sure loved you and revered you and idolized you like I do and still do. Folks, I got to tell you, when I learned of Michael Aaron's passing last week, again, shout out to David Wallstein, who breaks news any moment of the day. When I saw that on my Twitter feed, I mean, I literally had to take a moment. Got a little choked up. Had to go outside, get some air. It really stung. And I know that Michael had been struggling with his health in recent years. And, you know, Mike was a fighter. Mike was a warrior. Mike was a guy who didn't take nonsense from anybody. And listen, shout out to NJ Spotlight News, a great tribute to him, showing that footage of him with then President Bill Clinton and really getting up in President Clinton's face and really standing up for journalists. And you could see how pissed off Bill Clinton was. And if anyone needs to be excoriated, certainly it's Bill Clinton. But shout out to Michael Aaron for that, for standing his ground, for being a journalist, for asking the tough questions. Michael was always fair, never took sides, just reported the news the way we deserved to hear it. And I know that his passing has stung the entire journalistic community in New Jersey. I talked to journalists all over the weekend, both at the local, county, and state level, who said Michael impacted them and influenced them in some way, shape, or form. I know Michael did for me. And I'm eternally grateful to him for just, you know what, again, coming up to me and giving me that pat on the back and that boost of confidence that maybe, you know what, this kid in the green room maybe wasn't sure he had. But that's the grace that Michael Aaron had. That's the dignity and integrity in which he carried himself. Folks, if we can even just be 1/10 of the human being that Michael Aaron was, folks, we've lived a pretty fulfilling life, especially for those of us that call ourselves journalists. And last week, you know, when I heard of, obviously, we know Michael has been struggling with his health for some time. There's an article that was published via the Hackensack Meridian Mountainside Medical Center, where they were able last year to pronounce a beautiful couple, Mr. and Mrs. Michael Aaron. So on August 1st, 2023, a heartwarming event unfolded at Mountainside Medical Center, showcasing the remarkable compassion and dedication of the hospital staff. Michael Aaron, at the time 77, found himself admitted to the medical center due to health complications. While under the care of the hospital's med-surg team, Michael bonded with his nurse, James Wood, RN, the charge nurse. During one of their conversations, Michael shared that he was supposed to marry his partner of 25 years on Saturday, August the 5th. Unfortunately, his hospitalization forced the couple to cancel a ceremony and celebration at the very last minute, leaving them deeply disappointed. But then something extraordinary happened. James, touched by Michael's story and the couple's love, reached out to Michael's partner, Linda Ippolito, who shared the same desire to be married to Michael. With incredible teamwork and dedication, the Mountainside team swiftly organized a wedding ceremony in the facility's beautiful chapel, adorning it with flowers and flameless candles. A room filled with supportive staff and well-wishers gathered to witness the profound moment as Linda Ippolito and Michael Aaron exchanged vows, solidifying their love and commitment at the Mountainside Medical Center. The hospital's leadership team also contributed to the memorable occasion by forming a touching rose bridge, eagerly awaiting the newlyweds as they exited the chapel. The couple's radiant smiles filled the room with joy, creating a moment that will remain etched in the hearts of all who were present. Following the ceremony, a warm and intimate wedding reception was thoroughly arranged, complete with sparkling cider, delectable desserts, and heartfelt toasts. Linda and Michael will forever cherish this gesture of kindness from the hospital staff as it exceeded all expectations. Linda stated, quote, "This act of kindness is above and beyond what anyone could imagine. This whole wedding event has taken me away." The story is a testament to the profound impact healthcare professionals can have on the lives of patients beyond the medical care. It showcases the power of empathy, compassion, and teamwork in creating meaningful and unforgettable moments for those in need. The Mount Sinai Medical Center staff exemplify the true essence of caring and went above and beyond to make a difference in the lives of Michael and Linda, reminding us of the profound impact small acts of kindness can have on people's lives during challenging times. Folks, again, my sincerest condolences go out to the family of Michael Aaron, his wife, his children, and his grandchildren, and everyone that he impacted. And when I learned of his passing, it made me think back to when I made my first appearance on Reporters Roundtable at the Gateway Center in downtown Newark. I was able to dig up some footage there, and just to hear Michael, folks, to know that I sat in the same room as Michael Aaron, to hear Michael Aaron address me as a journalist, folks, that's an accomplishment that I can forever brag about. And I'm truly grateful to him. Here's some footage here of my time with Michael Aaron as a guest and a panelist on Reporters Roundtable.
Fernando Uribe, host of the Insider NJ podcast, Politically Direct. Let's get back to the shots taken in a moment. Fernando, your take on it.
You know, I wasn't surprised at the shots that the governor took because, number one, we know that indirectly it was at former Governor Christie, but also, let's be honest, it was also at State Senate President Steve Sweeney because he oversaw this during the last 8 years of Governor Christie's terms. And when I look at this, I knew it was just sort of subtle little jabs, and you really had to be living on some other planet not to know it was happening throughout it. And as you mentioned, a third of this speech dedicated to it, I felt that there was a lot of other things that were overlooked in New Jersey that the governor could have focused on. I mean, Michael, it's just a continuation, again, of the friction that exists between Sweeney and Murphy. And again, if you notice, the governor didn't touch Amazon and didn't mention Amazon, but we know that Amazon's one of those big components of these tax incentives that got a lot of flack under Governor Christie. But Governor Murphy knows not to touch that. At least from what I understand, he's not going to because the outcry and the backlash.
Well, he signed on to the $5 billion tax break offered to Amazon. He didn't create it. It was created under Christie or developed under Christie, but Murphy signed on to it. So, Fernando, is this a true compromise?
I would argue it's a compromise, but again, I'm just surprised this wasn't done before the State of the State address. And I think it's also sort of an indirect effort, again, by the State Senate President, even Speaker Coughlin, to not give the governor sort of an extra thing to sort of, beat his chest over at the State of the State address. He could have done that. They could have gotten this done beforehand, but the fact that it wasn't, again, it's another indirect little jab by Sweeney, not so much Coughlin, but more Sweeney, at making sure that the governor can't brag about this. Again, you would think that because it had already been in the pipeline for so long and they've been working on it, that it would have been done before the State of the State address. The fact that it wasn't, I think it's a victory for Murphy, but it may be a day late from when it was supposed to have been done.
People who own small businesses are going to be hurt.
Right.
That's what Michelle Stakirka of the NJBIA said in that chair on the news last night. Yeah.
Mike, I would just want to add that certainly small businesses are going to be affected by this. And again, it sort of reinforces the narrative that more and more people may want to relocate out of New Jersey because of this. It's just, again, becoming unaffordable to live here. Small businesses are going to struggle. And even with these increments, I know $10 by July of this year, I know $11 by January 1st of 2020. I mean, these are small increments, and I understand that for a lot of businesses, like as she mentioned, the larger businesses may not be affected, but small businesses are really going to be impacted by this. And whether or not that's going to reinforce more automation for some of these businesses, you can't blame them. At the end of the day, it's about making profits, but at the same time, certainly workers deserve, an honest day's pay, but at the same time, these small businesses are going to have to make some really tough decisions in the next year or two.
Thoughts?
Mike, I would just say that one of the things that was disappointing, I mean, the hearings have been great to watch and certainly been very educational and informative. But what was disappointing to me during the State of the State address is no mention of this, or even trying to highlight the importance of raising awareness for victims of sexual assault. And the fact that, if you will remember last summer, Democrats both statewide and nationally were up in arms and having tantrums during the Brett Kavanaugh hearings. And whether or not that was right or wrong to do so, I mean, we can debate that on another day. But the fact that we haven't seen the same outcry, I mean, you can hear a pin drop with the silence from many Democrats statewide about the Katie Brennan situation. And you know what? What message does it send to victims of sexual assault in New Jersey? And honestly, I think it was disappointing that the governor did not address that during his address. Saying about the book is the fact that former Governor Christie was in line and one of the candidates to be the White House Chief of Staff, and the fact that he didn't get this job and now the book being released, I find the timing very interesting, to say the very least. And now the fact that these words are being put out in print, and certainly whether or not he's maybe getting some revenge, who knows? But again, the fact that he didn't get the Chief of Staff job and now the book is released within a month afterwards, I find the timing unique.
He took himself out of that chief of staff hunt, supposedly. It's time for your journalistic hunt.
Coming up this week on Politically Direct, I'm going to have former Governor Jim McGreevey on. And he's still in the center of a very big storm in Jersey City due to his firing from the reentry program that he was heading there. And it sort of highlights this feud that he apparently is developing with Jersey City Mayor Stephen Fulop, and that's not going away anytime soon. So it'll be interesting to see what he has to say this week.
That sounds interesting.
Folks, again, sharing that stage with Michael Aaron, I would argue, is perhaps one of my biggest professional accomplishments. And again, having gone there on multiple occasions, I was really privileged to interact with Michael, a guy who took his craft seriously and was the best at it. And I know that sometimes, I'm a big sports fan, as I know many of you are. We throw the word GOAT around. Who's the greatest of all time? Well, folks, I can tell you in my adult life, when it comes to journalism in the state of New Jersey, it's Michael Aaron. It's not even debatable. 40 plus years in the business. A man who gave of himself, who was transparent, who was genuine and sincere. For all my colleagues in the field, we should aspire to be more like Mike Gandis and not maybe editorialize as much, but just reporting the news. If we can just even be 1/10 of who Michael Aaron was, again, as journalists, I think we've lived a pretty fulfilling career. And that's exactly what Michael Aaron had. A more than a fulfilling career, an impactful career, a career that touched many, many lives. And again, I will forever remember those words from Michael Aaron. And that's why I continue to work every day, folks. That's why I don't take summers off. That's why I don't take holidays off. Okay? This show is on every Monday. Come hell or high water, rain, sleet, snow, whatever. I'll make the Wi-Fi work somehow. Because when I look at his work ethic, folks, we should all want to have that work ethic, like Michael Aaron. And I'll continue to work hard in your memory, Michael, because you left such an impact on me. If I can do the same for someone else, that's a fulfilling life. And that's what you did, Michael. You led a fulfilling life. And I'm so privileged and honored to have interacted with you, to have spoken with you, to hear your guidance, your counsel, your advice, your wisdom. I'm a better journalist for it. And I know I speak for everyone in the journalistic community in New Jersey. We're all better off for having known Michael Aaron. Again, the GOAT of New Jersey journalism. Quite frankly, folks, it's not just in journalism about being incredible in journalism. Michael Aaron was incredible at life. Once again, my sincerest prayers and condolences to his family, to his wife, his children, his grandchildren, and to everyone that he influenced throughout the decades. Michael, we will miss you. We love you. We revere you. It's not just about trying to be Michael Aaron. It's about celebrating Michael Aaron and the amazing human being that he was. I'm better off for having known him for having spoken with him, and for sharing a stage with him. For all of us that did that at some point in time, as we're trying to make it in this business, and it's a cutthroat business, it's competitive. Michael always said, stick to what you do well. And if you do that, you'll go places. I'll always remember those words. Thank you, Michael, thank you for the inspiration. Thank you for the memories. And thank you for just being Michael Aaron. On behalf of everybody here at Jersey First TV, the production staff, and all of the talent here, we love you, Michael. Rest, bro. You deserve it. Ladies and gentlemen, Michael Aaron was 78 years old when he passed last week. And those are my final thoughts. Folks, that's our show for this week here. Once again, I want to thank Kamil Warraich, the president of the Muslim American Law Enforcement Association. Great events and great things going on with that organization. Again, check them out at maleanj.org. Of course, folks, check out all of our great content here at Jersey First TV. Make sure you like us on Facebook. Of course, follow us on Instagram and Twitter. For all of you on YouTube who tune in. And again, I appreciate the traffic. And while people who love the show tune in, thank you for that, for sharing the replays. And for the haters that still tune in, well, you're still watching. So we appreciate that too. Of course, folks, whether you get your podcast on Spotify or SoundCloud, download Jersey First and take them with you anywhere at any time throughout the summer months as we approach the fall season here on Jersey First TV. Folks, speaking of Jersey First TV, I can't say enough what a privilege it is to be on the dream team of Garden State Media. That's right, folks. It's Jersey First. Of course, brand new episodes of the Nader Narrative premiere every Thursday, hosted by the amazing Elizabeth Nader. Brand new episodes of Bridging the Gap with AJ Melillo and Seymour Rimbolo, also premiere on Thursdays. And folks, every Monday night live. Check out local listings, of course, for start times. You can check out Real Talk with Fernando Uribe via Jersey First TV. Folks, I can't say enough. Thank you so much for the traffic. Again, consistently, week after week, month after month, 10,000 views and counting per episode, all organic, nothing boosted, no paid ads, all organic, folks. I appreciate you tuning in live. And of course, for everyone who shares the replay throughout the week as well. And always remember, ladies and gentlemen, if it's unbiased, unfiltered, and unafraid, it's always real talk right here with Jersey First TV. I am New Jersey's premier award-winning journalist, top Latino as voted on by the Latino Spirit Online magazine for the last 3 consecutive years, along with the United States Latino Affairs Initiative. And certainly, folks, I'll continue to be the weapon of mass disruption in Garden State Media because my level of honesty, now more than ever, is truly necessary in this era of journalistic deception. That's right, folks. It's me, Fernando Uribe, the people's choice and the people's voice, telling it like it is every single week here on Jersey First. Folks, please party responsibly again as we wind down with the summer of 2024. I can't wait for the fall, folks. The NFL will be back soon. Halloween will be right around the corner. A little cooler temperatures. I love the fall, and I think many of you do too. Folks, again, take care of your elderly neighbors. Look after your kids. Folks, again, please party responsibly. And always remember, you can be good, be bad, baby. Thanks for stopping by. And always remember, folks, stay classy, everyone.